emergency.
Welcome back to That We Were Show, a podcast where we watch and discuss episodes of the ABC show 911. I'm Bex.
I'm Alice.
And I'm Ellen.
Thank you to everyone who's listened to our first 4 episodes and shared our social media posts and rated us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yes, we have to say a big thank you to Hannah, who has left us a comment on our Spotify. So now if you go into an episode's entry on Spotify, it's got a little Q&A section there, and it'll ask you a question. I think at the moment it just says, what do you think of this episode? But you can leave us a little review there. So if you listen to this episode or any of our episodes and you enjoy it, then you can let us know on Spotify if that's the way that you listen. I didn't even know you could do that until we got this comment. So thank you, Hannah. And yeah, leave us a note. That's awesome.
So cool.
In this episode, we're going to discuss the Season 1, Episode 5, titled Point of Origin, which aired on January 31st of 2018. Alice, would you like to remind us what happened in Episode 4?
A lot happened in Episode 4.
It did, didn't it?
So last week on 911, the 118 deal with a deadly plane crash while Athena makes an unethical arrest but fights against capitalism. Abby delivers a tragic goodbye to a newly widowed woman and then loses her mother to an unlocked door. Meanwhile, Bobby spirals into a bender, breaking his sobriety and breaking down to ask Hen and Buck for help.
Yeah, it was an action-packed episode last time, wasn't it? Well, action-packed and or emotionally packed.
Yeah, bit of both.
And it's not about to end with this episode, fine. The official summary for Point of Origin is: the crew races to an emergency where disaster strikes at an Indian wedding. Abby enlists the help of Buck to try and find her mother. That's right, her mum went missing at the end of the last episode. Yes. And for the first time meets Athena face to face. Meanwhile, Bobby has a difficult time confronting his past and Hen struggles to make the right decision. And the content warnings for this particular episode, we have a building collapse, which involves multiple injuries, but none of them are shown. None of the serious injuries are shown. We have a building fire and discussion of death by fire. We have flashbacks to a character at the height of alcoholism and addiction. And we have death by electrocution, and we have a child at threat. So this, we've only had 4 episodes. I don't keep saying this. We only had a few episodes, but this episode, what has to be like one of the heaviest so far that we have covered.
Yes.
So just a heads up, on top of all the content warnings I've just mentioned, there is quite heavy subject material in this episode particularly. Well, shall we get straight into it?
Yes, let's get into it.
Let's go.
So the episode opens with a wedding. Everybody loves a wedding, except apparently
Yay.
when you are the bride and the groom and you have never met before. This is apparently an arranged wedding. And while the bride and groom seem to be okay with the arrangement, their friends, the groomsmen and the bridesmaid, are definitely not on the side of going through with this wedding.
Yeah, one of the bridesmaids even says, "Hope you know a good divorce lawyer."
Yeah.
Not exactly the energy you want going into your marriage.
Yeah, they do sound like they're okay with it, though. They're like, we'll get to know each other. It's going to be okay. But they do go ahead with it. They say it's a good match. They go ahead with it. And at the end of the ceremony, they're all dolled up in all their beautiful, saris and everything that Indian weddings involve. The guests cheer and then they start dancing. And we get some great kind of, Hindi Bollywood style music and dancing going on for a bit, until they jump a bit too hard and the floor collapses underneath them and they all fall through the floor.
Yeah.
So we go straight to the 911 call where a guy he says he's at a wedding downtown and the floor collapsed. Send help.
Yeah. So the 118 arrive alongside other units. Buck reports that 16 are DOA so far, mostly crushed by falling debris and 1 impaled. Bobby says he's not surprised from a fall of 2 stories and assumes there will be additional casualties.
And the groom is extremely distraught, wandering around looking for the bride, calling out her name, trying to find where she's gone. And Bobby tells him to back off and let them do their job. And so they start looking then. But he sends Buck up to a higher floor to go in from above kind of thing, because they're not going to be able to reach the second floor by stairs or whatever.
Buck hears someone calling for help, and he finds an injured man with a broken leg. So he works on that while...
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this scene. Like
There's a lot going on, yeah.
Like everyone's sort of screaming out for help, and like, they're trying to clear some rubble out of the way to find people. Yeah, it's pretty tense. But Bobby actually does find the bride underneath some rubble and calls Buck over to help him move it out of the way so that they can get her out. And she's okay. She's conscious and moving okay. And then when they pull her out, she just flies straight into the groom's arms and gives him a big hug, and they seem to be okay after that.
What a start to a marriage.
Yeah. Well, especially since at least 16 of their guests have been killed in the process. Wow.
Yeah. So Bobby is examining some of the debris that has fallen. He picks up a piece of what looks like corrugated metal and immediately asks if the owner of the premises is there. And Hen points him out, and Bobby goes on the attack. He starts going in on the owner, asking him when he put on the third floor, which was the floor that the reception was being held on. He says, "You don't think I know what this is?" He shows him the piece of corrugated metal that he's found. He said, "That's cow pow. That stuff's been banned." And so cow pow is a very cheap, very easy and very quick way of reinforcing floors. So what they do is, instead of using steel rods, they get like corrugated galvanized iron. They make these little boxes, like little planter boxes. They set those up and then they pour the concrete around them.
Right, okay.
And unfortunately, the boxes can move, the boxes can weaken under the weight of the concrete, and they are not stable. And in 2001, there was a wedding in Jerusalem where the building used cow pow. 23 people died when that collapsed. Okay. And so that particular building process, which was never approved to begin with, has pretty much been banned worldwide, which is why Bobby is asking, when did you put on the third floor? Obviously, this guy has done that after the collapse in the Jerusalem wedding hall, knowing that it is unstable, but needing it to be cheap and quick, because that's how he makes his money, by adding in an extra room on top of his building.
I am all for the abolishment of like rebar in general. Like we've said in a previous episode, we have problems with rebar, but it does have its uses.
Rebar works.
It does make things actually structurally sound, except when they're sticking out of a side of a barn. Anyway, Bobby has a very, very strong reaction to this particular incident, like above and beyond just poor building practices, absolutely.
To the point where Hen has to pull him away from the owner of the building. He's got this guy in a scruff. He is yelling in his face. And when Hen pulls him away, she's like, "What is wrong with you?" And he just turns around and snaps, "Back off, Hen." Of course, Hen doesn't back off. She's like, "Back off. Not 24 hours ago, you were asking for help. What has happened?" And he just walks away.
Yeah. Then Buck comes in, as he does, and just starts talking about how, like, the marriage was arranged, and, could you imagine committing to someone you don't even know? And she just goes, "Does anyone really know anyone?"
Yeah, and she watches.
And then we go to the title card.
She watches Bobby leave. Like, it's obvious that she knows something's going on. But how do they get through to him? They've been trying, but he's not biting.
No.
Then we cut to title card. After the title card, we are in a very fancy bar, and Hen and Athena are having drinks.
Yeah, it's a really pretty bar, actually. I like it.
So we get a little bit of update on Athena. She's still chained to the desk after her actions against Layla Creedy in the previous episode. Apparently, Layla's parents are ready to drop the complaint against the department if the department will drop the charges against Layla. Athena is not willing to do that, so I think everybody's in a little bit of a stalemate.
Yeah. But at least May's back home.
Yes.
Yeah, Athena sort of says it feels like solid ground, but she feels like she doesn't know the people she's supposed to be the closest to.
And then Hen mutters like, oh, there's a lot of that going around.
And Athena sort of gives her a side eye and goes, he said, are you having trouble at home? She's like, no. It's Bobby. And Athena calls him Clark Kent, which I thought was really cute. I think later on she refers to him as like Bruce Wayne as well. It's like...
Yeah, she goes through pretty much all of the strong and silent superheroes.
Yep.
Just all the DC characters, yeah.
Which is ironic, seeing that Angela Bassett was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I do just want to point out that Athena calls him Clark Kent, and then later Bobby refers to himself as Superman.
Oh, yeah.
That's very true.
So Hen talks about how Bobby went on a bender for 2 days in his empty apartment, and he's been their captain for over a year and never opened up. Yeah. So Athena sort of says like, the wife took the kids and left, but Hen says it didn't look like people moved out, more like he never really moved in, like he wasn't really there.
Athena must be incredibly bored at work because she offers to run a background check on him. Hen says no, that Bobby's got trust issues. She doesn't really want to go there. He's not a bad captain. He's just he's worrying her. So Athena changes the subject because when she asked Hen if there was trouble at home, Hen had said no, not yet, and Athena didn't let that go. So she's asking, what is the potential trouble at home?
Yeah.
And Hen says she got a call from Pall Mall Women's Correctional Facility, and Athena immediately asks, what does she want? And I liked in this scene that we get a sense of how close these two women are. Yeah. Because Athena immediately knows what Hen is talking about. There's no need for Hen to explain why she was possibly getting a call from a women's correctional facility. Athena already knew and already understood the implications of that.
I also like when they don't actually explain things straight away, like they let it happen, because like in a lot of scenes you get like exposition where it's just like, oh, like, you know, they'll talk about who's calling at the correctional facility like immediately, and it's like, yeah, they know, like, it's their life.
They managed to pack a lot of information into this one scene, like.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like...
But it doesn't, it just feels like a natural conversation,
Yeah, it's like when you watch movies and it's like, you know, a brother sees the sister for the first time and it's just like, oh, how are you? You've never been the same since our parents died when you were 5. And it's like, they like she knows that your parents died when you were 5. Like, it's fine. You don't need to tell her.
It felt like a very natural conversation.
Yes.
As natural as TV conversations are, I guess.
Yeah, that's
But, and she says that this woman, who she doesn't identify yet, wants to see her and says it's urgent, and she feels like she owes her. But Athena's not having that. She's like, you don't owe her anything. So Hen then says she didn't fight us when we wanted to adopt Denny. And I'm like, who the hell's Denny? Like, I was so confused for a while in this scene. And then Athena says, what does your wife have to say about you going to visit your ex? I'm like, whoa, okay, more information about Hen now. She has a
Hen
wife.
is queer.
Hen has a wife. Hen apparently adopted Denny.
Yeah.
And Hen also hasn't told her wife. So Athena brings up her second DC reference and says, sounds like Bruce Wayne isn't the only one with a few secrets.
Then we cut to Buck. Looks like he's coming home after a shift, perhaps. And I'm not surprised that he walks into what essentially looks like a frat house.
I totally forgot that Buck had roommates at one point. Like, don't want to spoil too much for Ellen, but totally forgot that he had roommates. I was like, who the hell are these people in his house? I actually had to replay the scene, even though they're like, oh yeah, this is our roommate. I was like, who the fuck are these people? Like, where did you come from?
I have no idea. So he walks in. There's a game playing on the big screen. His roommates are sitting on the couch. They're entertaining a girl. They introduce Buck by, hey, this is Buck. He's a fireman. They're very proud of the fact that he's a fireman. But there are like red Solo cups everywhere. There are pizza boxes everywhere.
Yeah, it looks like the stereotypical frat house.
It's
such
a frat house. Buck is investigating the pizza that's been left all over the table rather than cooking himself something, although I don't think you could even cook in that kitchen from what we see of it.
He never needs to eat at home, surely. He just waits until he goes into the firehouse.
Right.
Bobby will cook him up something.
His phone dings and he has a text from Abby, which is a missing persons poster for Patricia Clark. And he immediately calls Abby.
Look at him getting on board with the phone calls.
Yeah, and he asks her if she's okay, and she just breaks down. She says, no, I'm having a nervous breakdown. Bless her. But he says he's going to come over and help her look, and then they can go back to never seeing each other. And Abby's just standing there quietly going, okay.
So yeah, her mum's been missing for 9 hours at this point.
Yeah.
And then we go straight back to Hen, who is visiting prison without telling her wife again.
So she's let into the visiting area where there is a white woman with long blonde hair that's been braided back in a very bright orange jumpsuit sitting at one of the tables waiting for her. And she looks very excited to see Hen, calls her baby.
Yeah.
So there's a history between these two.
Yeah. But Hen is very cold to her. She says that she's sorry she hadn't come to visit her for a while, and the lady asks after Denny, but she calls him something else.
Diesel.
She calls him Diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No wonder they changed it to Denny. Like, that sounds like a Rottweiler, not a kid.
Yes. And she said she wants to check in with her girl, and Hen immediately is like, you're not my girl.
It very much gives the energy of when you're about to ask something really, really big of somebody, and you try and do that like small talk to try and
she's trying to butter him up. But
Yeah.
yeah, like, how are you? How's your wife? How's your kid? How you doing? You look good.
Yeah.
Hen's not having any of it, and she just tells Eva to get to the point. And so Eva gets to the point. She's up for parole. Her lawyer thinks she's got a really good shot because she hasn't got into any fights in the past 2 years. She's been taking a bunch of accounting courses. She starts kind of talking about how good she's been. And again, Hen cuts straight to the point. What do you need from me? And what Eva needs is for Hen to come to her parole hearing and possibly in her uniform
yeah.
and say good things about Eva to get her on parole. And Hen is nodding like, yeah, there it is. The other shoe is dropped.
Yep.
Yeah, but then we go back to Buck knocking on Abby's door, and it's so cute, this scene. Like, Carla answers, and he's like staring at her, and she can't say anything when she sees him, and Buck's
She
like,
gives him a big look
Abby?
up and down. It's great.
Yeah. and then Abby comes to the door, and he's like,
She literally
Abby.
pops up. It's so cute. She like hears Buck and she's like, "Oop, I'm here."
And they just stare at each other and then like walk inside, and Carla's just like, I'm Carla, by the way. Completely blown off.
Carla's like giving him a Yes.
Buck immediately goes into work mode and starts asking what they know so far. And then Abby switches into work mode, as much of a work mode as she can go into when it's her mother that she's looking for.
Yeah. They've tried to work out how far she could have got in the time. Carla says that she's an annoyingly fast walker, so she's probably got farther than they think.
Yeah, she says she walks at about 3 miles an hour, which is about, for those of us who don't work in freedom units, it's about 5 kilometers an hour, which is kind of what I do on the treadmill.
Yeah.
That's a brisk walk.
Definitely
so
a brisk
for a woman in her
pace, yeah.
70s, that's pretty impressive.
And Abby's freaking out, but Buck does reassure her and says, Abby's sort of like, how are we going to do this? And Buck just says 1 mile at a time.
Which is very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's such a good calming presence. Which is so not like him at work, but you know.
I think this is, well, I think it's that thing where when you are the one that has to be in charge, you are in charge, but when there are other people that you know that you can fall back on, you kind of let yourself fall back a bit.
Yeah, like Abby's freaking out, and so Buck's like, nope, it's fine, I'm taking
Yes.
control of this,
Yes.
we're good. Whereas, yeah, when Bobby's taking control, Buck doesn't
Buck
think.
can rely on
yeah,
him. Yes.
jumps in, asks questions later. Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of Bobby, we cut to the church that he frequents, and he is back in confession with the cute young priest.
Yeah, this is a sad, very sad scene, this one.
Oh.
Bobby says that he's lost. He wanted to shield the crew from his own personal damage, he says. And the priest says, you just have to have a conversation. But Bobby says, not that simple. There are things they just can't know. And the priest is like, what do you mean? Like, it can't be that bad. And Bobby says, how about that I murdered my own family? And I'm pretty sure there was a commercial break right there.
Yeah.
It's like,
I want to know,
dun.
Ellen, what you thought after Bobby said that line.
Well, I mean, I hadn't been spoiled for this. I didn't know what had actually happened to them, but I assumed that he couldn't possibly be an actual murderer. I knew that it had to have been an accident that he was blaming himself for. That was my initial thought, and thankfully I was correct.
Yeah, which is every single person that I have kind of watch this show for the first time, they get to this episode and the immediate gut reaction from them is he's like over exaggerating, right? He's just blaming himself for something that wasn't actually his fault. There's no way that this guy is an actual murderer. So I mean, we got to give props to the writers and to Peter Krause for his portrayal of Bobby, that none of us for a single second believe that this man is a cold-blooded murderer. We're all convinced that something happened and he is just blaming himself for it, and while he might have something to do with it, it's not entirely his fault.
I wonder if we would have had a different reaction if we hadn't seen the binge drinking scene in the previous episode, though. Like, because obviously we saw him in the kitchen drunk, and like you hear him having that fake conversation with his family, and then he admits that he was 200 and something days sober. And so when he says he murdered his own family, I'm like, drink driving? Like, there's something.
I thought it might have been an accident.
Yeah, whereas
that is interesting.
If we hadn't had the foreshadowing, it's like, oh god, is this guy a serial killer?
Yeah, like if season 1 episode 1, Bobby walks out and tells Buck, I killed my entire family, there would be that, what do you mean you killed your entire family?
Yeah.
But yeah, the way they've set it up, the way they've kind of drip fed us information about this character over the last couple of episodes, we're all 100% on Bobby's side, convinced that it's not as bad as, I mean, it's bad.
Yeah.
It is really bad, but it's not as bad as he is making it out to be.
Yeah.
And then we get a flashback to St. Paul, Minnesota, which is us watching the story unfold as he is talking the priest through what happened.
Yeah, so it's a snowy night. He's actually having a drink in his car to start with, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's taking a pull of his flask. He also takes a handful of something, which I wondered... Yeah. I mean, I was watching it on a small screen, so I couldn't tell whether he was popping pills.
Yeah, I think so.
But then when he gets upstairs, his daughter says that he smells really minty, so I don't know whether he was popping pills or whether he was popping mints to cover the smell of booze on his breath.
Yeah, I think he was trying to cover the smell of booze, because when his wife says that, he missed dinner and everything, but he's in time for teeth brushing in bed, she gives him a hug, but, she wrinkles her nose and pulls away.
Yeah.
You can tell she knows something.
Yeah. So, okay. So he's drinking and then trying to cover it up with mints.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there are two kids. He has two kids.
Yeah, they're really cute.
He has a daughter who he calls Brookie, and a slightly older boy who we don't get the name of yet, but I will spoil it for you. He's Bobby Jr.
Oh, okay.
He is Bobby Jr.
He's Bobby
Of course he is.
I actually didn't catch it until like this watch through,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh.
And he does like the bedtime routine with them. So they're brushing their teeth or whatever, and he's like falling asleep in the bathroom. His daughter has
He's
to...
literally falling asleep on the toilet too.
Yeah, she has to say, "Daddy, Daddy." And he says he's just wiped out from work. It's been a tough day.
Yeah. Work.
Yeah, his daughter tells him this like oddly funny story about how the best place to catch on fire is in the firehouse, and the best place to get I can't remember the other thing she said.
The best car to get hit by is an ambulance. And
Yeah.
the
No,
best-
not in this
the
series.
best place to
like,
yeah,
Damn,
and the
this is
best place to
morbid.
get robbed is in a police station. It's like, okay, go to bed, child.
Kids do come out with the weirdest crap like that though. Like they will come out with weird shit like that.
So he asks her where she got such a beautiful brain, and she says probably Target.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about the difference between the Australian Target and the US Target?
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause-
Australian Target is terrible.
US Target blows my mind. It is like Coles and Kmart and Priceline Pharmacy all smushed into one building, but you can also get booze and Starbucks like all within the same room. It's
Yeah,
just
that's crazy. The Target near me is big, and they had a cafe for like 0.2 of a second, and then COVID happened.
but it's just it's like fancy homewares and overpriced clothing that, you know, no normal person is ever going to wear.
It's all just Kmart stuff now too.
and now
Yeah,
it's
it
just
is a lot
merged them
cheaper now.
both. Yeah.
Cheaper.
So it blows my mind when people in the US say, "Oh, I'm going to go to Target and get my groceries." I'm like, "Wait, groceries?
Yeah.
At Target?"
Like no one here goes to Target.
Oh, I buy lots of clothes from Target just because they have. They used to be the only place I could get jeans that fit me properly.
Ah,
But
Target
yeah,
did actually used to have good jeans, but I don't know about now.
it's
'cause-
changed now. Yeah, now
Yeah.
they're a bit different. But I don't go there
anyway,
as much
that was a
anymore.
bit of a tangent.
Yeah.
Big tangent. I do need to go to Kmart and get new jeans this weekend, actually.
We don't have a Kmart near us, so it's a bit of a journey.
It's right,
to
it's
get,
all at
get to
Target
one.
anyway now.
There's one literally less than a kilometre from my house, and I'm still like, oh, it's so far. I can't bother going down there.
Anyway,
Anyway,
Then the son, who is a bit more serious, a bit more reserved,
like his dad.
asks Bobby if he's okay and if, is his back hurting again. So it sounds like he often like blames things on his back.
Yeah, but he says that everything's going to be all right. Don't worry, and
Yeah.
says goodnight to them and leaves.
Get a lot of sweet dreams.
very sweet. In that television way of these kids are too cute, they're being too nice, something terrible is going to happen to them. You just know it.
Yeah.
So Bobby goes
Because
out
if
into
I
the
say
main-
goodnight to my kids like that and left the room, they'd be out in 2 seconds saying they were thirsty or something, you know. Kids don't just do that.
Literally, my friend's 5-year-old tonight was like, I can't sleep, I'm thinking of something funny. And they're like, what is it? And he laughed and went back to bed, and they're like, okay.
Okay, don't tell anyone else what it is.
Like, it's fine.
Anyway, so Bobby comes out into the main room and tells his wife that he is going to go for his walk, not a walk, his walk. It seems like this is a very common occurrence because if he doesn't go for this walk, his back will tighten up. And we get a little bit of exposition where it seems that 5 years ago, Bobby was in some kind of accident on the job and broke his back, but it is still hurting. Bobby tries to brush it off with the whole, you know, he's lucky that he's even up and walking, and broken backs never really heal. But his wife thinks that they need to go and see somebody to get it fixed so that he's not in pain anymore. He just says he's going to go for his walk and leaves it at that.
Yeah, and she says, wait, don't go. And he just leaves.
Yeah.
Wondered if she suspects that something's going on with him already.
She was acting a little squirrely.
And at this point, as he's walking down the hallway and getting in the elevator, the dread is just mounting. I'm just like, what's going to happen? But he goes down the elevator and he gets out on the 6th floor. And he goes to another apartment and opens the door. And there's no power on, so he lights a lantern, like an actual storm lantern, like a
Yeah, it's like a gas
one.
lantern.
A kerosene camping lantern. Yeah.
And the only other thing in the apartment is a gas space heater and a sleeping bag and a bottle of booze.
And a bottle of booze. Can I just, like, he's got the keys to the empty apartment too, so it's not like it's, like, just one that he's, like, squatting in. Like, who has the money to rent 2 apartments in this economy?
Yeah. I mean, this was, like, 8 years ago or whatever. No, 6 years ago. Getting ahead of myself there.
It was some amount of years ago, but yeah.
He wraps himself up in the sleeping bag and leans back against the wall.
So first he takes some pills. Definitely takes some pills this time.
These are definitely pills, yeah.
And he fills a flask with whatever alcohol he's got. But then drinks straight from the bottle.
Yeah, because it's spilling. He can't get it in the flask and he's getting frustrated.
Yeah,
so it's just
so
like,
he
fuck it, I'm just going to drink straight from the bottle.
Yeah.
Although, the position that he is sitting in, I've never had back problems. But surely that position that he is sitting in is not going to be good for his back.
Yeah.
Because he's not sitting straight up. He's kind of, like, his butt scooched a little bit forward and he's kind of slumping back against the wall. That can't be good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no wonder his back's
comfortable.
always in pain.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's what's causing the pain.
So the combination of the pills and the booze, and he was already falling asleep anyway, he drifts off in his little den of iniquity. And I don't know whether he expected to fall asleep, but he kind of wakes up and it looks like there's this oh shit moment where he just gets up and immediately bolts out of the apartment, leaving the space heater on, leaving the lantern on. And can I just note that sleeping bag is not 1 meter from the heater?
Absolutely not 1 meter from the heater.
This is when I realised what was going to happen.
Fire safety, come on.
Because I was like...
You're a fireman,
Yeah.
surely. I mean, that got drilled into us from school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't even allowed to leave the room if the gas heater was on. Like...
For someone who deals with fires, he is pretty bad at it in this case.
Although to talk ahead, he does say that he's mostly high and drunk at this point. So sober Bobby would probably be aware that the heater is too close to the sleeping bag and be aware of the fire hazard. Drunken high Bobby has no clue.
Drunken high Bobby doesn't care.
No. So drunken high Bobby goes back up to his apartment on the 11th floor, where his wife is on the couch waiting for him to come back from his quote-unquote walk. Yeah. And they have a little bit of a confrontation.
Yeah, she says, I'm losing you. You've been lying to me for months.
The scary part is how sober he sounds as well. Like, they don't try and get him to slur. They don't try and get him to act high on anything. Like, he just makes an excuse. He's like, no, I just forgot my phone. I lost track of time. And that's what high-functioning addicts are like. So I really like the realism.
Apparently he's already been to rehab last year. And after that, he told her there would be no relapses. But she asked him, is it pills, heroin? And he just says anything to make the pain go away.
Apparently he had another workplace accident a few months ago, re-injured his back or exacerbated the existing injury. And whichever doctor was seeing him through that injury did not do their due diligence, did not check Bobby's medical history, and Bobby apparently did not disclose his medical history as an addict because he got prescribed oxycodone for the pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he took to it like a duck to water, to the point where he was taking it 24 hours a day. And when he built up a tolerance to the oxy, he started taking anything he could just to make the pain stop, which absolutely horrifies his wife because she realizes that if he's taking Oxy 24/7, he's driving the kids to school high. He's going to work high.
And he goes, "This isn't me. I'm Superman. I go into buildings and rescue people." And she can't deal with it. She tells him he needs to leave because she doesn't want him there tonight. But she does say, she's like, "I'll forgive you for this, just not tonight."
She's so tired. So Bobby attempts to go back to his den of iniquity, but he's left his keys in the apartment, and so rather than try to go back for them, he just goes up to the roof, huddles into his little coat. He's sitting there on the rooftop. It's December in Minnesota. It's snowing, and yet he's just going to sit on the roof and take his pills and try and forget.
Yeah, that's how people freeze to death.
Yeah, the hypothermia risk is real. I'm really surprised that when the fire trucks roll up and the engines start honking, that he actually wakes up and is able to get up very quickly.
Yeah, he doesn't have like frost on his eyelashes.
His entire body isn't frozen. I mean, maybe they breathe them hardier in Minnesota. I don't know, but
it can be like a lot of degrees below zero there. I don't know about December, but yeah.
Well, that snow was packed up pretty high, so it'd have to be pretty cold for it to have maintained that like structural integrity.
Well, we do get a little glimpse of the apartment where the heater sparks for some reason. I don't know. They don't normally do that, but unfortunately, the sleeping bag happens to be right next to it, and it catches fire. Funnily enough. So
gee, whoever would have thought that would happen?
Yes. So Bobby
totally
does
didn't expect it.
He hears sirens coming and does look over the side of the building and sees fire below him. But he races back inside, but the hallway is on fire. A man bursts out of an apartment on fire.
Like fully on fire, fully
he's totally
engulfed.
on fire.
I don't understand how someone would get to that state of...
I guess he was probably asleep.
Yeah, I mean, there weren't any alarms or sprinklers or whatever inside the building, so...
Yeah, the man that's, Bobby puts out says that the sprinklers didn't go off.
And the alarms didn't go off. So, okay, yeah, if he was asleep and woke up on fire, all right, I'll give that one to them. So Bobby puts him out, asks him if he can move. He can't. Bobby says, "Stay put and I will come back for you if I can." At which point, fire explodes out of the wall next to them. This place is really burning.
Yeah.
Yeah, like badly. So he gets to his family's apartment and tries to like kick in the door, but the floor pretty much immediately gives way and he falls down. So he's calling for his family. And that's where we learn Bobby Jr.'s name, because he's just screaming, "Marcy, Bobby, Brooke."
Marcy, Bobby, Brooke. He tries to jump. Like, he jumps and grabs hold of the edge of where the floor is pulled through. So either this apartment building had incredibly low ceilings, or Bobby Nash is one very tall son of a bitch. He's trying to pull himself up when fire rescue literally yank him down to try and get him out of the building. At which point he turns on them and he's just yelling at them, "Give me your gear, give me your gear." But he doesn't identify himself as a firefighter. So as far
he's
as
just fully panicking at this stage.
Don't they call him Bobby?
No, they
his
don't.
name?
No, they don't know him. He's just this crazy guy yelling at them to give them his gear. So they're like, "No, manhandle him, haul him out of the building."
Maybe I'm getting confused with him calling out Bobby, because I was like, I didn't realise that was his kid's name. So yeah,
it's interesting the parallel with the husband at the start who was trying to find his wife, and Bobby's like, "You need to get out of here and let us do our job."
Yeah.
At this point, you kind of understand now why Bobby had such a severe reaction to the floor collapsing.
So much trauma
the
involved
wedding.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the end of the flashback, and we cut back to the church where the priest is sitting there wiping the tears away, as it is for a lot of us. Bobby reveals that he would later learn that the building was constructed with highly flammable subpar materials, which served as an accelerant, and the sprinklers weren't hooked up, and he didn't notice.
And the priest asks him, and you didn't notice. I'm like, way to lay the blame on this guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's
Yeah, that's a bit of a mean thing to
very
say.
much blaming himself for the death, and now you're piling it onto him, saying, why didn't you notice that the building wasn't up to code? So I think this priest needs a little bit more training in sensitivity when it comes to talking to people with trauma. But then we get Bobby saying, maybe sober Bobby would have noticed, but drunk and high Bobby definitely didn't notice.
No. So after that, he disappeared and lived off pills and vodka for 2 years. And 148 people died in that fire.
Which is why Bobby's little book has 148 spaces in it, because he's trying to balance the cosmic books, saving 148 people that he killed in his mind.
Yeah, he absolutely feels responsible. Like, he even chokes up saying that he killed them, and like that he burnt his family in their sleep.
Yeah, he gets pretty
really
graphic
rough.
about that.
Yeah. You can tell he's been going over this many nights since then. But the priest says that he should share the story with his friends, and Bobby just says, "Oh no, God forgives more than people do. I don't need them to know about this." And the priest just tells him, if you don't trust your friends to see you and love you for who you are, then you don't really have any friends.
And Bobby breaks down sobbing that he just misses them.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
It's a very heartbreaking scene, the whole thing. But it's good to finally find out what actually happened and why Bobby is the way that he is.
Yeah, we finally understand Bobby Nash a little bit better.
Yeah.
So from that heartbreak, we cut to a park where Hen is sitting on a park bench watching children play on a playground. And there is a woman sitting next to her, and this is the elusive wife, Karen.
Yeah.
Karen asks if Hen is ready to tell her what is bothering her. And eventually, Hen fesses up that Eva called her and wants Hen to speak at the parole hearing. And Karen is not impressed.
So yeah, Karen says that that Hen should speak at the parole hearing so that she can say that Eva belongs behind bars still. Yeah, Karen wants Eva to stay out of their life and Denny's life. But Hen says she thinks she's made an effort this time. She's been doing accounting classes.
It's very much the dynamic mirrored the dynamic between Hen and Eva, except this time Hen is in Eva's role, trying to talk Eva up to Karen, and Karen is in Hen's role, being very unimpressed by it all.
Yeah. Hen even says she's not as bad as you think, and Karen says she's worse because she'll always be Hen's first great love.
And Hen has no argument to that because she knows that Karen's right. Karen is a very wise woman. I love Karen.
I love Karen.
Yeah, it makes you think there must have been some interesting backstory here, and maybe we'll find out one day. But I'm sure it's going to end in heartbreak, so maybe I don't want to know. But anyway, we go back to Buck and Abby, who are now driving around. Are they in a fire truck? I'm trying to remember.
No, they're in Buck's truck.
They're in Buck's Jeep, yeah.
Yeah.
But they have
Is this
a police
the first
radio.
time we see Buck's Jeep?
Yes.
Yes, because most of the time when he's with people, he's hooking up with them in
He's
fire
in the
engines.
fire truck, yeah. So yeah, Buck's Jeep, and he is on the phone with Athena, and Athena says that she'll keep her eyes open. She's still chained to the desk, but she's, got an alert out. So they turn on the emergency radio so that they can listen as well.
Why does Buck have a police scanner in his personal truck?
To be fair, a lot of people have scanners, especially since, like, if you're on the job or on the way to a job, like on the way to the shift.
Okay.
But yeah, like
that makes sense.
my dad does not drive a truck, but he has a truck CB in his car just so he can hear about the traffic.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Fair.
So Abby says it's a bummer they had to meet under these circumstances, and Buck says it's the worst first date ever.
This whole scene is just so,
So
cringe-worthy. Like, it's funny, but it's like...
It's so
what?
like, Buck is definitely 26, and
Yes.
Abby is definitely
Yeah.
a mature
Yeah,
woman who's got other shit going on.
The age difference has never been clearer.
Yeah, Abby says that it possibly is a bad date, but it's been a while since she's been on a date, so it's a little bit fuzzy. And Buck guesses, oh, what? So it's been a couple of weeks? And Abby's just like, no, Buck, it's been over a year. Which blows Buck's mind because for him, dates are sex. So he's like, but if you haven't been going on any dates, who have you been having sex with? And Abby just laughs. And that blows his mind even more. And he's like, you haven't had sex in over a year? That's just incomprehensible to him.
Yeah, and then he goes, not even with yourself?
And she goes,
She's
I didn't
like,
say that.
Well.
Like,
This is
Buck,
not a very gentlemanly conversation here, but like really.
Buck, adults have other things to do.
And they don't really speak about it to other people. But anyway.
So Abby tries to explain that she didn't say that she's not had sex if you count having sex with herself, but that for her, sex is human connection. And that's what she hasn't had in over a year. But thankfully, a call comes over the police radio interrupting this conversation.
Saved by the bell again.
Saved by the bell. I think I need a police scanner in my car, or just like carried around with me to save me from awkward conversations. So we have a report of a traffic accident where a power pole has been downed and there are high voltage wires in a swimming pool with a 3-year-old trapped in the pool.
Buck sort of brushes it off. He's just like, like, an engine will get out there, it's fine. But Abby's like, no, it's going to take like 8 to 9 minutes. I know, because this is my job.
We're like 2 blocks away. We can do this.
Yeah.
So they do. They roll up at this traffic accident and then hear people screaming from around the back of a house. So, yeah, the power line's down. There's a guy in the pool and a kid on a floaty thing.
She's on a floating pizza slice,
a lilo
which I
thing,
just
yeah.
hilarious.
But apparently the woman who's the kid's mum is like screaming, and apparently the guy in the pool is the nanny who jumped in to try and rescue the kid but got electrocuted.
Not the smartest tool in the shed, that one.
No, well, maybe he didn't realise what was happening, but a man comes out who turns out to be the kid's dad, and he tries to run to rescue her, but Buck like fully tackles him to the ground to stop him from going near the pool.
Which, again, Buck is in civilian clothes at this point.
Yeah,
so as far
literally.
as this guy knows, his daughter is in danger, and this random stranger has just tackled him. And he starts fighting Buck to, like, get off me, and Buck has to reassure him, no, I'm a firefighter. It's fine. He says that you can't see that the power lines are sending, like, thousands of volts through that water. So the guy relents, and they try to keep their daughter calm while Buck and Abby work out what to do. And Buck's first instinct, I mean, the Manny might not have had the best idea of diving into the pool, but Buck's idea is not on the same level of stupidity.
Yeah. Yes. He grabs the like an inflatable orca and goes, I'm going to ride this out there and rescue her. And Abby's just
how
like,
are you going to get
"Are
out
you
there, Buckley,
crazy?"
without your hands or feet getting in the water?
Literally, like,
Like-
what are you thinking, Buck? Like Abby's like, no, do not do that. Did you get that from the Macho Handbook? And Buck just goes, there's no way that book actually exists. So Abby, thankfully, has a brain and grabs a rubber hose, which Buck helpfully informs everyone is rubber, so won't conduct electricity.
Oh, good to know.
Thank you, Buck.
So they stretch it across the pool so that the kid can grab it and, like, the downed power thingy is like crackling and exploding. But they get the kid to grab the hose and they pull her to safety. Abby's actually the one that like reaches in and grabs her, which is really cool because Abby's usually like not on scene.
Yeah.
But almost as soon as Abby scoops the kid up off the pizza float and hands it to her parents, a crew from Fire Station 10 walk in and go, "Don't worry, guys. Department of Power's turned off the power. It's all fine." So, I mean, Abby's argument for her and Buck attending the scene was it was going to take fire rescue 8 to 12 minutes to get there, and yet they're there now.
I mean, to be fair, the dad may have also died because he probably would have jumped in the water, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, the mum probably wouldn't have spear tackled him to the ground. She would have just screamed. Yeah. So maybe they did save at least one life.
Yeah.
But,
And Abby got to, you know, flex her rescue chops, which is pretty cute.
Yeah, she actually makes a comment that she's usually miles away on the other end of the phone, and she's really kind of enjoying to, like, be on the ground doing the rescuing. It's a bit of a high. She and Buck have a high five, and Buck kind of clasps her hand and then stares at it for a second. And Abby's sort of questioning, what are you looking at? And he brushes it off. No, nothing.
yeah, I don't know why he doesn't just tell her now.
So that they can have a cute conversation in the car, okay?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
we're going to stretch the episode.
But they get back on the job looking for Patricia. You know, suddenly they're serious again. And then night falls. I think the sun was reasonably high while they were saving this kid, but now it's nighttime. So they must have been driving around for quite a while. Buck decides then to explain that the reason he was holding her hand was that he was surprised. Usually after, or at least his first few rescues, he was shaking with so much adrenaline. But her hands were steady and she was like a full-on Jedi.
Just full of the pop culture references.
Yeah.
This episode.
But she does say that she's had some experience in dealing with stressful situations, so that could be why.
Then she also adds that she feels calm around Buck.
Which is so cute.
Which is cute.
Yeah. But then they're interrupted from their cute moment again by a phone call, which is Athena, who says that a woman of Patricia's description has been brought into the hospital. So they scoot off there. And Athena finally is introduced to Abby in person.
That was like, you've met before. Abby's the 911 dispatcher from the home invasion. And
It was
like,
really...
oh.
It was an interesting interaction because when Buck finds Athena at the hospital, why is Athena at the hospital?
Athena she's trained to a desk. She's bored.
Yeah, okay. So, Buck brings Abby over, and Athena is in full, like, business professional mode, and she sort of very sharply says, you're the daughter. And Buck says, no, this is Abby, you know her, and the code switch. Athena's like, oh, this is one of us. I go, yeah, I know you. Her tone immediately goes to friendly, she softens. It was very interesting to see how Athena the sergeant and Athena the woman react to different people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she says that she made it all the way to South LA.
Which I think is where we as Australians have a slight disadvantage. Because Athena says, oh, she made it all the way down to South LA. And I just went, oh, wow, she's travelled quite far. That's pretty impressive. But I think that the American viewers would have gone, oh, shit. Because South LA is not the nice part of LA.
Oh, okay.
It's quite renowned for gang violence. It's got a high percentage of Black and Hispanic population, very, very low socioeconomic area. So it's quite a dangerous part of LA.
I just assumed it was basically like where Franklin lives in GTA 5.
Right.
I don't understand that reference.
It's basically like where all the like
The place where the
shootouts
cars
go.
get stolen.
I mean, playing GTA 5, it's usually me stealing the cars, but still.
Right. But that makes sense because they say that these are the guys who brought her in, and they're these three like huge tattooed Hispanic looking guys. But they're so sweet. Like they say they're glad she's okay, and one guy says that she was confused, and he's seen it before with his abuelita, and it doesn't get any better. It's like, they're sweethearts. But she's okay. Patricia is there, and she calls out for Abby, and they hug, and she says she's so sorry.
Yeah, it's a nice little reunion.
It is.
And it's always nice when Patricia remembers who Abby is.
Yes.
She stops remembering? Oh, that's so sad.
She forgets everything. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
like
no
in
more
the
spoilers.
we cut
literally
we cut
in
to
the
the
next
next
scene.
scene, and Abby is getting Patricia ready for bed. Buck is patiently waiting, and when Patricia comes out of the bathroom and sees Buck, she assumes that male Abby's apartment. This must be Tommy. When Abby says, "No, this is Buck. He's the one who helped me find you." Patricia just goes, "Oh, where did I go?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she doesn't even remember that she was missing for almost a day, I think. If she got out around 1 a.m. the previous day.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's probably been missing around 24 hours by this point.
Yeah, and she has zero memory.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
and
rough.
we get a quick cut to Buck, and he finally understands what Abby's dealing with. Because I think he's been hearing Abby talk about Patricia and her memory loss, but he didn't really understand it until she, after being missing for 24 hours, has no memory of that. And it's like, oh, this is serious.
Yeah, like it's just, like, again, he's mid-20s. Like this is so far outside his scope.
Yeah.
So he says it was nice to meet you to Patricia, and she tells him to be kind to Abby, which is really cute.
Yeah.
Oh, she goes back into mum mode for a minute.
And Buck immediately ruins the cute by So they go into the other room, and
Well, it was funny because when she says, like, be kind to her, and Abby's just like, okay, bye.
literally just like pushes him out of the room. And Buck goes, that's the most amount of time I've ever spent with a woman I wanted to have sex with without having sex with her.
Abby is so quick, she immediately shoots back and goes, my mum? And give Buck his credit, he's just as quick, because he's like, yeah, it's the nightgown. It's just so hot.
It's so hot.
Which, I mean, it's Buck being Buck, but it also kind of shows that they've got this connection, this little chemistry. They can banter back and forth like this. They get each other.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so cute. But Abby says they should go back to being phone buddies, because if they keep hanging out, mistakes will be made. But she does thank him for giving back a piece of herself, because today she actually got to be Abby and not just her mum's carer.
Yeah.
And they have a big hug.
Buck
It's
looks
very
so
nice.
soft.
He does. It looks like a very comforting hug in general.
Yeah.
And then Abby looks at him and says, do not now go and have sex with some girl on Tinder to make yourself feel better.
I think is a bit of a discredit to Buck at this point, because I think he's finally kind of clicking that he doesn't want sex. He wants sex with Abby, and not because he wants the physical pleasure of having sex. He wants that connection with her.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not going to go out and pick up some random woman. He wants Abby for Abby.
I think Abby's definitely, like, trying to break the ice, because she definitely feels the connection too.
Oh yeah.
And so
She's trying to
brush it off. Yeah.
She's trying to keep Buck at arm's length.
Yeah. But Buck says he'll call her.
And then sort of shuts the door and does a really cute little lean against it, like, oh.
He's so cute.
It's so cute, but at the same time, like of a similar age to Abby, just standing there going, yeah, he's just a kid.
He's a child.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's like, you know, age difference is not, you know, you do what you want, that's fine. You can't help who you fall in love with, all that stuff. But yeah.
I don't know that I'd want to be in a relationship with a 26-year-old, but, you know, it's have a little bit of fun with him, maybe.
I was going to say, if the opportunity arises.
Especially if the 26-year-old looks like that.
Yep.
So we go back to the firehouse.
Yes.
Buck is in a spectacularly good mood and does not realise straight away that not everybody else is in a good mood.
It's great. Comes in and says, "It's a beautiful day, Henrietta, my love."
To which Hen just shoots back, like, "Call me Henrietta again," and you're going over the balcony.
And Bobby, "Oh, captain, my handsome captain." Bobby's just, "What, are you high? Like, what is happening right now?"
And he hasn't noticed that these two are dancing around each other, like trying very, very hard to keep out of each other's space, not looking at each other, not talking to each other.
Yeah, but Buck met a woman and her mother and didn't have sex with either of them. Very proud day for Buckley.
He's so proud of himself.
Yeah.
And there's this moment where Hen wants to look at Bobby and, like, share the, like, are you listening to this? Can you believe him? But then remembers at the last second that she's pissed at Bobby and she can't have that moment of camaraderie with him. And Bobby is just like, what the fuck, Hen? You can't even laugh with me at Buck right now?
Yeah.
It is an icy moment, and Buck does pick up on it. He says,
finally.
Look, he's slow, but he gets there, okay?
But they're, you know, they don't get to eat the food that he's cooking. Once again, we need to update the count here. Again, which I haven't done. I have to check back through the last couple episodes and make sure we've got all of the counts. Because the alarm goes, and the owner of a car washing place has dialed 911 because one of his employees got stuck in a rotating brush. And when they arrive, the guy who is tied to the brush can hear them, but he looks pretty out of it.
Which, when you see what has happened to him, you kind of understand why he's a little bit...
At first, I thought he was high or something. I'm like, what?
Oh, I thought he was, like, stoner. Like,
I definitely thought he was high. Yeah.
But yeah, and then Hen, like, Bobby starts trying to move him, and Hen's like, tells him to back off until she can assess him. And Bobby sort of says he'll be glad when Chimney gets back. It's like, oh.
Hen agrees.
Yeah.
And Buck's just in the background going, Mum and Dad are fighting. What do I do?
Yeah. Yes.
So they get him down and put him in the ambulance, and then they're outside and Buck's just pissing himself laughing inside. And, like, you can hear, again. And so they go inside and they're like, what is happening right now? And Buck's watching the security footage of the accident where the guy's, like, hosing down something, and then the hose gets stuck in the roller and pulls him in, and then he's just, like, being flung around.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if I'm being pulled toward a rotating brush by the hose, I'm going to keep holding on to that hose in the death grip and let it pull me in and wrap me up and pin me to this. I'm not going to drop the hose. No.
Which, again, maybe a bit of a stoner.
Maybe a stoner. But the footage is hilarious because he's being pulled in, the brush is spinning him around. At one point his legs sort of fly out horizontal, so like he looks like a doll that's been tied up. Bobby is trying really hard to be professional.
Yeah, he's like, guys, this is a serious accident. Someone could have been injured. And Hen's, like, Buck's still pissing himself laughing. Hen starts laughing. And then Bobby also starts laughing. And so all three of them are just, like, crying with laughter, like, grabbing each other and, like...
Yeah, and then the owner guy, okay, it's funny. Now I can see it's funny.
It was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny. And then later they go outside and Hen says she's never seen Bobby laugh like that. And Bobby admits that he wasn't always like this. That he made some mistakes and he lost everything he cared about. And he moved forward from that by never letting anyone else get so close. But despite his efforts, that Hen, Buck and Chimney have become that close, and he has a new family now.
The rest of the 118 is going like, what are we, chopped liver?
Literally, every time they go out on a job and you see the rest of the 118 in the background, I'm like, those poor guys.
They don't get any of the love.
No.
But Hen just says, let us in, Bobby. And Bobby says they'll go back to the house, he'll cook them a delicious meal, and then he'll introduce them to someone, me. So he's going to open up and let them in.
Yeah.
Which I would have loved to have seen that conversation.
Yeah.
I really would have liked to have seen how that exactly went down and what everybody's reactions were.
Probably Buck asking some insensitive questions.
Yeah, I think Buck would have
Likely,
taken
yeah.
a while to sort of click.
Like, you called your son Bobby Jr.?
And Bobby would be sitting there going, that's what you took away from this conversation?
I think that's pretty standard for a lot of American families, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, listeners, but yeah. And I expect...
Brooke and Bobby, really? Like...
Hen would have been in tears the entire time. And not from laughter.
No.
No.
Alas, dear listeners, we do not get to see that scene.
No.
Instead, we cut back to Abby's apartment.
Yeah.
And,
her mum's asleep, finally. So she goes over and takes her mum's glasses off her. But then her phone rings and it's Buck.
So Buck says, without any preamble, can I ask you a question? Did you want to have sex with me? And we cut to him and he is in bed, I'm assuming in his pajamas, but we just see he's shirtless, reclined against the pillows. And Abby is completely incensed, like, what? Why are you asking me such a question? And Buck asks that she said that if they spent more time together face to face, they might have made a mistake. And he asks her, so you might have made the mistake too. Like, it's not just him wanting to have sex with her; she wants to have sex with him. And she kind of reluctantly admits, like, yeah, you're muscly and you're kind and you're fun. And Buck very leadingly says, you said we can only talk on the phone, right? And Abby agrees, yes, we're just talking on the phone. She's getting into bed at this stage, and Buck just says, what are you wearing? And Abby immediately understands where Buck is going with this.
Yeah.
And she sort of like scolds him a little bit, like, I don't think this is exactly what I meant when I said we could talk on the phone. But she's laying down at this point in the bed, and Buck, through the phone, just says, do you want me to stop? And she takes a moment and says, no. And then we cut to the end of the episode.
So, yeah.
They're about to get nasty with phone sex.
Yeah.
Which I'm very curious as to whether Buck is good at phone sex or not.
Yeah.
Of course you're curious about that.
No, but I mean, like, I'm sure he is good at physical sex, but, like, phone sex is about understanding sort of the mentality. Like,
Bex is like, scientifically, I want to know if he's going to...
For science, I need to know this.
Does he know what will turn a woman on? Does he know what words to say? Does he know how to use his words to turn Abby on? I don't know. Do 26-year-olds know how to do that?
Well, I guess we'll find out next episode.
Look, speaking as someone who did a lot of it when they were a teenager, like, teenage boys can do it, so I'm sure a 26-year-old boy can do it.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. But I guess we'll find out in the next episode,
we'll
maybe,
next
or in the next few episodes.
Whether Buck is good at phone sex.
Yeah, whether she was satisfied with that.
Ironically, the next episode is 911's first Valentine's Day episode.
Ah. Interesting.
Which is ominously called Heartbreaker.
It sounds like tragedy and who knows.
It does a little.
I wonder if the song Heartbreaker will play in the episode Heartbreaker.
Which song?
It's a Pat Benatar song, but I'm not singing it because I cannot sing.
I'll look it up later.
I only know the song because we named a puppy after it.
Oh, okay. You named a puppy Heartbreaker?
Spoiler alert, the Heartbreaker song does not play during the Heartbreaker episode.
Oh, okay.
There are several other heart-related songs that do play, but not the Pat Benatar one.
Boo.
Anything else we want to say about this particular episode, though, before we go into the next, what's happening next
I
time?
don't know, we've really gone off the rails.
we have a little bit tangented, but that's okay. That's okay. I enjoy a tangent.
I do think one thing to mention would be there's a lot of attention at the moment in the current season 7, about the queer representation that Buck has brought to 911, and everybody is making a very big deal about Buck coming out as bi and the representation that entails. But I think we're season 1, we're 5 episodes into season 1, and we have a queer couple who, spoiler alert, are going to stay for the rest of the show. So it feels very sort of disingenuous that the show is being praised for its queer rep centered around Buck and Tommy, when Hen and Karen have been there from the very beginning.
And not only that, but Athena's ex-husband,
Michael.
And again, spoiler alert, is in a gay relationship, in later seasons. And he's very in the show too. Like, it's not like it's just background.
Yeah. It's just very interesting, and I think there is a lot to unpack about why all of a sudden Buck coming out as bi is, oh my god, diversity, queer representation, like everything is being showered upon the show for that, when we have established queer couples in the show from the very beginning. Now, whether that's a race thing, a misogyny thing, I don't know, but
it's not big also because Buck is sort of discovering himself later in his life, perhaps. I mean, I guess the same goes for Michael,
it's not as
really.
sexy to have established queer couples who are already fully okay with their sexuality. I don't know, maybe. There's a lot of reasons maybe why everyone's so gaga over bi Buck when, queer Hen and gay Michael have existed since the beginning.
Yeah.
It was a thought that I had when I was watching this episode again.
Yeah, definitely.
In the midst of season 7.
As the show progresses too, there are a lot of queer couples scattered in as well.
Yeah, the show has been diverse to some extent from the beginning. It's not something that they've just dropped in for shits and giggles in season 7.
Yeah, perhaps it's just a bit more surprising or shocking to people that they would have a character who has obviously been characterized as having sex with a lot of women, for example, at least in the early season, and then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but they have progressed his story in this way, and it's a surprise.
think because he was originally brought on to be the macho sort of character, but he's never really been that macho. He, even in episode 1, he holds the baby and wants to save it, and so
well, at least we've never seen that side of him so far.
Just thoughts that I'm having.
Thinky thoughts. Yes. I thought even though this episode was very sad, it was good to hear about, especially not just Bobby's story, which was important, good to know what had happened to him so that we can understand a lot of the things that have been in the show already, but also Hen's backstory. It's the first time we've heard a lot about who she is outside of work.
Yes.
So that was interesting.
She has a
to
kid,
hear about.
she has a wife,
she
has a incarcerated ex.
The show so far is doing this is a proper ensemble cast show, right? Often in shows like this, they will have a person or a couple or whatever who are the main focus of everything. But in this case, so far, they're doing a great job of giving everybody a chance to be in the spotlight.
Yes, that is one of the things that I do love about 911 is that it is a true ensemble cast. You get to know all of the characters, and while there will be episodes that focus on a particular character and their story arc, by the next episode you're on to another character. Nobody gets left behind.
Mm-hmm.
No, none of the characters are two-dimensional background characters just to fill the scene. They're all fully fleshed.
I mean, except for the rest of the 118.
Except for the rest of the 118, who
Yeah.
I don't think we've even seen their faces.
No, they just rush around in the background when when the alarms are ringing.
Yeah.
Or they're on scene if they all get called, like in the plane crash one.
Like,
Yeah.
are they not allowed to eat Bobby's dinners? Like, does he make dinner and then he's like, no, you're just, like, get out of here.
I mean, we've
know.
seen that Bobby will cook and everybody sits down, but there's separate tables.
Yeah.
Like the
there's
A
only
shift sits at
room
one
for-
table, and
Like they have Athena come to visit them to eat with them.
she gets to sit at the cool kids table.
Yeah.
It was also actually really nice watching season 1 again tonight, because I've been sort of in a rut with season 6, and I've been speaking to Bex a lot about it. And I'll talk about it now just because it's going to be a long time before we get to season 6. But, like, I'd heard that season 6 wasn't as well liked, and I was like, oh, that's okay, like, I'm binging through it, but I'm really struggling with it. And it was really nice coming back to season 1 and being like, oh, that's right, that's what this show's about.
This show was actually good at one point.
Yeah.
Aw.
Because, yeah, like, I'll get through season 6, but
You're nearly there.
it's, dragging my feet right now.
Yeah.
Is this the first time you've seen season 6 or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
so
is
this is-
Alice's
it's-
first watch through.
Yeah, you're fair. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it feels like it's lost the spark, and I was like, is it because I'm tired? And then watching this tonight, I was just like, oh, that's right. No, this show's really good.
Oh, okay.
The spoiler
But,
alert, Ellen, there was a change of showrunner for season 6.
Okay.
And from
That
the
sounds
Supernatural
familiar.
era, we kind of know what happens when they change showrunners.
Yeah, it actually very much reminds me of season 6 of Supernatural,
Okay. Yeah.
in that, like, I don't know, there's just a lot of stuff that I'm like, why did they bring that up again? Like, yeah. But season 7 seems to be better from all the screaming I've heard, so
Yes.
I'm persevering.
Well, if and when we ever get to season 6, I promise you we can tear it a new one.
Yes.
But
There
so
will be
far, I am
another
really
time.
enjoying season 1. So
Good.
Yeah, it's really
we're
good.
halfway through.
Yay.
5 more to go. Okay, so what have we got coming up next week? We already talked about it a little bit, but
I have to tell you that I found a new source for the official summaries, and it's got, like, it's literally been ripped from Fox TV's promo department. So I'm just going to read the whole thing with my best broadcast voice because I think it's hilarious.
okay.
Valentine's Day is a mix of romance and rescues on an all-new 911 Wednesday, February 7th on Fox. On Valentine's Day, a surprise marriage proposal goes awry with dangerous consequences. Athena attempts to help a desperate woman and unintentionally joins the Lonely Hearts Club. Bobby and Chimney pull holiday duty and learn about the Casanova fracture, and Abby and Buck go on their first official date.
Wow.
Oh.
Sounds like every Valentine's Day. Excellent. Okay. Shall we mention the content warnings too?
This one is ironically rather lighthearted for an episode called Heartbreaker. In comparison to the previous episodes, we do have an incident in a small airplane that requires it to take an emergency landing. There is a choking incident, and not like the fun kind of choking incident. There is an amateur surgical procedure with blood. There is a mentally unstable woman. There is a off-screen homicide, and there is a police officer at threat.
Okay. All right. Well, please do let us know what you thought of this episode, dear listeners. You can either, if you're listening on Spotify, you can answer the Q&A if you click on the episode itself in the Spotify app. Or you can leave us a comment on the episode post on our website, which is thatwewooshow.com, and all of our other contact details can be found there as well. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you all again when we talk about episode 6, which is called Heartbreaker, Unattached Drifter Christmas. Okay, no, it's Valentine's Day. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
911 is a fictional show, but many of the situations portrayed happen in the real world too. If any of the topics we've discussed in this episode have affected you, please know you're not alone. You can call or text numbers in your country for help. Just Google crisis support in your location to find out the number. If you enjoy our podcast, you can help us out by leaving us a review on Spotify or your preferred listening app, and by sharing our social media posts. Find out more at thatwewooshow.com.
But she does agree that Hen should speak at the parole hearing. I cannot say that word. She does agree that Hen should speak at the parole hearing.
Yes.
She does agree that Hen should speak at the parole... Nope.
Nope, somebody else do it. So yeah, Karen says that